Lynyrd Skynryd, an American rock group from Jacksonville, Florida, was a southern rock band formed in 1964 with lead vocalist and founder of the band, Ronnie Van Zant, guitarist Gary Rossington, guitarist Alan Collins, Larry Junstrom on bass, and Bob Burns on drums. The band toured under several different names like My Backyard, The Noble Five, and The 1% until 1969, when they settled on Lynyrd Skynryd, which they named after their former high school coach who was always enforcing dress codes and addressing their long hair, someone they despised until after they became famous and became friends with Lynyrd Skynyrd, the coach. In 1973, with the release of their first album and the lineup we consider most of the original members today, was singer Ronnie Van Zant, bassist Leon Wilkeson, keyboardist Billy Powell, guitarist Ed King, guitarist Gary Rossington, guitarist Alan Collins, and Bob Burns on drums, who left the band in 1974 and was replaced by Artemis Pyle. Ed King left in 1975 and was replaced by Steve Gaines in 1976. Steve Gaines was only in the band a short time, as his debut career began on their last record, Street Survivors. At the height of their fame in the 1970s, the band popularized the southern rock genre with songs such as Sweet Home Alabama and their anthem, Freebird. After releasing 5 studio albums and 1 live album, the band's career was abruptly halted on October 20th, 1977, when their chartered airplane crashed, killing Van Zant, Gaines, and backup singer Cassie Gaines, and seriously injuring the rest of the band. Throughout 1973, the band opened for The Who, in which most bands were said to be booed off the stage and were only allowed an opening slot of 30 minutes. It is claimed that Lynyrd Skynyrd was the first band to never be booed off as an opening act, and soon would be headliners themselves. With the release of Street Survivors, by now the band was skyrocketing to fame. The album released on October 17, 1977, and 3 days later, the tragic airplane crash happened, leaving 3 band members dead. Singer and founder and the father of Southern rock, Ronnie Van Zant, 29 years of age, who often made claims he would never see 30. Steve Gaines and his sister, backup vocalist Cassie Gaines, also perished. Both pilots and the band's road manager, Dean Kilpatrick, was also killed. Cassie Gaines was scared of the Conair 240 that Aerosmith looked at first, then turned down. And due to past issues with the plane, she would have rather rode on the bus instead. But Van Zant talked her into it by saying, "If it's your time to go, it's your time." Reluctantly, she got on the plane, and as it turned out, it was not only her time, but that of her brother and Van Zant himself. Want you to sign a contract. Want you to sign today. Oh, I'm sorry, am I recording? Okay. The remaining band members who survived were Gary Rossington, Artemis Pyle, Leon Wilkeson, Billy Powell, Alan Collins, and backup singer Leslie Hawkins, including several entourage members. It was Artemis Pyle who went to get help, to try to save the lives of his friends. He ran into the farmer whose property the plane crashed on. The plane was leaving Greenville, North Carolina, on their way to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for a show at LSU, when it simply ran out of fuel, due to pilot error. The pilots tried an emergency landing on the farmland, but missed it and crashed into the swampy woods instead. Both Powell and Rossington described the crash as sounding like thousands of baseball bats hitting the plane as it violently tore through the pine trees. Van Zant, who had been sleeping on the floor in the aisle, was told to get up and get his seatbelt on. Pyle, a former Marine, knew instantly by looking out the plane's window that something was wrong, and when he went into the cockpit to see what was happening, the pilot told him to get in the back of the plane and buckle up and brace for a crash landing. Pyle did his best to tell everyone to buckle up, even trying to convince Ronnie to get up, who grumbled at him. Powell thought he heard his belt buckle click, but Ronnie died on impact from hitting the bulkhead, unlike the myth of him being thrown into a tree that some people believe. Steve Gaines also died on impact, and his sister bled out, which Billy Powell claims he held her until she died. Because of the swamp and wooded area they crashed into, it was hard to get help to them. The locals of Gillsburg, Mississippi, came to the rescue and tried their best to get to anyone alive. Once emergency first responders came, they did start to get survivors out, but they had to put them on makeshift stretchers and get them to Easley Road, where ambulances awaited to transport the survivors to hospitals. Powell gave an interview to reporters the next day, and when asked if the band would ever play again, well, you can only imagine the shock they were all in, and he said, "I don't think so." However, after a long hiatus, in 1987, they formed the Rossington Collins Band, which was later renamed the Lynyrd Skynyrd Tribute Band, which included Ronnie's little brother Johnny, Gary Rossington, Leon Wilkeson, Billy Powell, and Artemis Powell, and former original member Ed King, because in 1986, Alan Collins was in a car accident that killed his girlfriend and caused him to become paralyzed. Collins died in 1990. Out of respect for the deceased and the request of Steve Gaines' wife Teresa and other family members, if you look at the original cover of Street Survivors, it eerily shows Steve Gaines engulfed in flames with his eyes closed. So MCA changed the album cover to a simple black background. In 2004, Rolling Stone magazine ranked Lynyrd Skynyrd number 95 on their list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. Lynyrd Skynyrd was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on March 13, 2006. To date, the band has sold more than 28 million records in the United States. So, as of today, there are only a couple of original members left alive, Gary Rossington being one. This year, 2021, Lynyrd Skynyrd is hanging up their hat for good as they say goodbye on their farewell tour. The band may be dying out, the great Ronnie Van Zant may be long gone, but this band's legacy and its music will live on forever. No matter how many times you get tired of hearing Sweet Home Alabama. This legendary Southern rock band, with its rough around the edges, raunchy and honky-tonk rock and roll style, will live on forever. Did I mention forever? Yeah, forever. Can't say forever enough.